This is the MeatEater podcast coming at you shirtless, severely bug-bitten, and in my case, underwearless.
We hunt the MeatEater podcast.
You can't predict anything.
The MeatEater podcast is brought to you by First Light. Whether you're checking trail cams, hanging deer stands, or scouting for elk, First Light has performance apparel to support every hunter in every environment. Check it out at firstlight.com. FIRSTLITE.com. All right, everybody, welcome to the Whitetail Week episode. It's like Shark Week, but better. Even more dangerous. And the... Okay, so you're going to think I'm throwing out stray superlatives here, but this is the honest truth. The best archer in the whole wide world is here. Not like when you have a guy on, he got like the biggest buck, but in America. Not like that. It's like the best archers here. Levi Morgan.
I guess so.
Well, it's not even a debatable point, right?
I mean, it depends on who you ask. If you ask some of my competitors, they'd probably argue that, but
you beat them
sometimes.
Listen, it's just we're just gonna run with this. It's the best. I'm pounding the table that the best archer in the world is here. Who I just found out. I didn't know till this morning that Levi Morgan's wife is a competitive archer, and they played against each other when they were 9.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't give him the time of day.
No, she wouldn't. I even called one of the organizations and tried to get her number, and they wouldn't give it to me. So then, but when I quit in high school, and when I came back in 2006, she was the reigning women's pro world champion at the time. So
what?
Mm-hmm. So then we started dating after that. But
then you finally won her heart.
Finally.
She's still in it?
No, she was up. We started, she competed until about 4 years ago when we had 5 years ago when we had our second child.
Got it.
And then she just kind of.
Things got a little tough.
Yeah, she just wanted to be mom. So.
Yeah. You guys got 4 kids?
4.
Yeah. All right, we're going to dig into all that. We're going to dig into what it takes to be the best archer in the world. And also the thing I'm interested in is how that translates to hitting whitetails.
Okay.
There's probably a big difference.
There is a big difference. Yeah.
No, I've heard you talk about it. We're going to talk about that. Also, Nick Pinizzotto. Am I saying this right?
Pinizzotto.
That's Italian?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Good. We're brothers. From the National Deer Association, who you guys have heard us talk about a handful of times. He's also here. He's going to talk about an upcoming film that his organization did with various state wildlife agencies about whitetail deer management. Hit us with a couple points about that film.
Yeah, so it's nothing like this has ever really been done. A lot of people take whitetail deer and deer hunting for granted. And the reality is there are a lot of challenges. And when you look at the amount of money that deer generate for all species conservation, even threatened and endangered species, it's huge. 8 out of 10 people that buy a hunting license hunt deer.
Mm-hmm.
The next closest is turkey, like 3 out of 10.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
wow.
So when you add turkey, elk, another species, it's still not half a whitetail. So, the film seeks to get this in front of people, deer hunters, first of all, most of them have no idea about that. But, suburbanites too, people that care about any wildlife need to understand that if it weren't for deer, the management of those species would be in trouble.
Now, you know Jim Heffelfinger.
Well, we just spent some time with him in Calgary this week, yep.
He's going to write a thing about him and Dirk and Pat Dirk and the whitetail writer are insistent that you now and then at least nod towards saying white-tailed deer. Not whitetails. Whitetails is a colloquialism. It's the white-tailed deer. You really sound like you know what you're talking about when you run around saying, I like to hunt white-tailed deer.
My wife just gave me a hard time about that exact thing before I left, so yes.
And you got to put the hyphen in there. I do it with a pause. The white-tailed deer. Live tour. I'm just pitching Levi Morgan on our live tour date that we have coming up. You're closer to Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
In Pittsburgh. And Chester, if I'm understanding right, you're in for all shows.
I just as of this morning, chatted with Katie.
And you confirmed?
and I confirm.
So our live tour has mainly become a Chester concert. The minute Chester, when I found out that you were going to be able to open at all the shows and play music at all the live shows, my first call, he didn't pick up the phone, was to Hunter Spencer, because I want him to make a Chester concert t-shirt, like the old style that has the dates listed on the back.
Wow. That's big.
So you got to can you take a picture of him with his glasses on and stuff, and with his lab glasses? This can be this is going to be your concert
I don't want
t-shirt.
that to be the poster art, man.
Is his face
badass?
Is his face going to be emblazoned on the side of the tour bus?
If he can do you have your guitar? If you can hold your guitar and have those rubber goggles on, that'd be a great concert t-shirt.
Standing next to this thing.
Chester. So December 6th to 17 is the live show. This is the order of dates. Now we take a day off here and there. I wish I had it all lined up. Denver is December 6th. Kansas City is December 7th. Pearl Harbor anniversary. But that's nothing to do with the show. Davenport, Iowa. Then we go on to Kalamazoo, Michigan. Oh, this isn't in order. Corinne, this is the most messed up list I've ever seen in my life. Where's Detroit?
I put etc.
Come on, you can't announce. It's like, how are you supposed to announce a tour with etc.?
Fine, this is
It's only 8. You quit at like 1, 2, 3,
there's
4, 5,
Kansas
6.
City.
Etc. is 2 that Corinne chose not to include.
Okay, what are we missing there? There's
We got
Pittsburgh
And
area.
there's no show in Illinois. There's no show in Illinois.
No.
I can name them
You
here.
can find all of these on the MeatEater.com
I want to talk about them right now. Because,
We've got Denver in the Mission
I think that's an
Ballroom.
old list. Sorry, guys.
Great, this is what I'm talking
We've
about.
got
Hit it, Chester.
Yes,
We've
thank you,
got
Chester.
Kansas
Saved
City
my ass.
at the Folly Theater.
That's December 7th.
We
Denver's
have
December 6th.
December 9th at the Capitol Theater in Davenport.
Okay.
We've got
Doing a great job.
Then Kalamazoo, December 10th
State Theater.
at the Kalamazoo State Theater.
We did State Theater before, and I've been there, as I've told the story many times. I've been there before. And I think he's passed away. This would be a good person for dead or alive. Dylan died, or is he not dead?
Bob Dylan, he's alive.
He's alive.
Yeah.
That'd be a great person for the game, dead or alive. I saw Bob Dylan there at the State Theater.
Wow.
Long time ago. And then we did a live show there years ago. In 2019, we did a live show there.
I think it's a pretty interesting
It's a great theater.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like, I don't know, it's all decorated up. If
pretty.
that's the one that I'm thinking
If
about.
I had more time, I'd tell you a good story about something that happened at that theater with my late friend Eric Kern. Go on.
December 11th, Detroit at the Royal Oak Music Theater in Michigan there. And then we've got Cleveland on December 13th.
You know who's going to join us for the Cleveland show? I'm lining up like local guests. That's why I'm pitching Levi Morgan on it for the ones you haven't got to yet.
Yep.
You know who we got who I was just talking to to see if he'll come to the Cleveland show?
I think I've got a guess, a good guess.
Who? We got weights and fish.
The walleye guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
I might bring him his own jersey and he can put his own jersey on. Jason Fisher. I was pitching him on this idea the other day. So I think hopefully we can get him at the Cleveland show.
That'd be awesome.
Kevin Murphy, world's greatest small game hunter, he wants to throw in on Cleveland, so he'll be on stage at Cleveland.
Okay. Great. Yep. Are we going to get an extra day in there to actually fish, or?
I have to look at the layout. But then keep
That'd be
going.
fun. All right. Pittsburgh. That is December 14th.
What's Cleveland?
Barely see
What
it.
date is Cleveland? Chester's got those cheap rubber, for you people listening, Chester's got those cheap rubber safety glasses because he's going to tell us just how tender a whitetail fawn is. Everybody knows they're tender, but how tender? We're going to tell you.
That's Cleveland is December 13th at the Agora Theater.
Okay, and then what's the next date?
December 14th. And that is...
There's no data walleye fish.
Gotcha.
We'd have to get up early in the morning and fish walleyes.
Oh, that's all right.
Hold on a minute. We'll figure it out.
December 14th, we're in Munhall, Pennsylvania.
That's the greater Philadelphia area. No, the greater Pittsburgh,
Pittsburgh
area. That's the
area.
greater Pittsburgh area. Mess that up every time. And that's when we're trying to get Levi Morgan to come on stage and shoot his bow. You know, Nugent got
Flaming
in trouble
arrow?
for that
Did he really?
in Ohio, not Pennsylvania. Because he used to do the Whiplash Bash. And we used to, like, I went to the Whiplash Bash one time with my late friend Eric Kern. And Uncle Ted threw a bunch of jerky out into the crowd. And I picked a piece of that jerky up off the floor, and me and Eric shared it. And he would shoot his bow. He would shoot his bow on stage. And then he goes into Ohio and gets discharging a weapon within city limits.
You're kidding me.
No, but we'll see about we'll talk about whether or not we'll have various audience members hold up little targets, and Levi will shoot those targets.
Ooh, been a while since I did
So we're gonna have to check with the
Crush it.
insurance adjusters, or maybe Chester could do like an apple on his head. We'll figure it out.
I'm good.
Keep going.
December 15th in Philadelphia at the Keswick Theater. That's in Glenside, Pennsylvania. December 15th.
And when the show opens, everybody will come in. The show's going to open. The show's going to open with some music by Chester, and then we'll get the show started.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out what kind of music I should play.
I'm going to be very heavily involved in that decision. Speaking of live shows, this is the most important one. I want like at least like consulting on it.
Sure. I've got some good ideas for specific cities.
Oh,
Yeah,
No,
like-
that's
Is Clay going to join on stage? Because after that thing you posted on Instagram.
Oh yeah, do you think you can maybe play with Clay a little bit? Because
got a
Clay's coming
great
to some of the
voice.
shows,
Of course.
So Giannis,
Like MeatEater
Giannis will
boy
be there
band.
for like Chester will be there for every show. Giannis is there for every show. We're lining up guests. We got Jordan Budd coming to a show. I'm gonna start working phones. Kevin Murphy's throwing down on 2 shows he's coming to, so he'll be on stage for a couple shows. The shows occur in sections. All shows will have a trivia component for give audience chances to win stuff. All shows will have a Chester component. But the most important thing, this is the most important live thing. Phil,
Yes.
tell him about your song and dance routine. Well, no, Phil's so Phil's a thespian.
Incredibly amateur. I just do it for fun.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I did, but I learned the other day that Phil makes a little jingle on this stuff.
Yeah, occasionally. Yeah. Yeah.
So he's a like a what sits between amateur and pro
Semi-pro.
or semi-amateur. He's a semi-pro thespian.
Yeah, that's right. I'm doing the little play this just in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Yeah.
So you guys Phil's doing a comedy.
Yeah.
Phil's always involved in community theater of some sort. Is it fair to call it community theater?
I'd say like local theater. Yeah,
Local
community.
theater.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different things. I mean, I just started doing it last year just for fun because my kid's getting into theater. So I auditioned with him kind of to make him feel comfortable.
That
And
wasn't
then,
the first thing you did.
Well, since college, yeah. The first
Oh,
thing in
was?
like 10 years, yeah.
Oh. But I'm talking like the kind of stuff where you buy a ticket and go down. I mean, it's a professional
Oh, yeah.
production.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. You buy a
Yeah,
ticket.
it's
there,
not like going to see your kids like
there are ushers. You
at
can
the
buy
school
some
play.
You can buy some house wine in the lobby.
Yeah, you drink wine. You got to pay to see them. So Phil's doing this,
Yeah,
and he's
so-
doing right now. He's doing a comedy
Yeah,
in
it's
Bozeman's
called-
Ellen Theater, and we did a live show at the Ellen Theater before.
Yeah. I was not there. I think I was before I started working here, but
So Phil's doing this.
Yeah, if
It's
you're
a
in Bozeman, check it
It's
out.
a 1930s slapstick comedy.
yeah, it's called You Can't Take It With You. It's a great cast. Yeah, I mean, and then also me. A
Our
great
tickets on
cast
sale.
and
Our
then me
tickets
as
on
well.
sale.
Yeah, tickets are on sale.
And when are the shows? It's the end of
It
October.
starts October 20th and runs for 2 weekends. So this information applies for people who live in Bozeman and are into community theater. So
No,
I'm not
anybody.
sure the percentage of your audience.
What I like about it is this is that time of year when you got like a lot of rotten tomatoes in your garden. You know,
Oh, that'd be
season's winding down. I got one. I got setting off to the side for Phil. That I'm gonna bring down on the show. No, it'll be good. How much are there still tickets left? How much are tickets, Phil?
Oh yeah, I think tickets started around either like upper 20s, early 30s. That's not how you talk about prices.
Low
is it?
30s,
Low
I think.
30s. I'm not
Yeah,
talking about
early
the year.
You're not talking about Chester.
No.
You're talking about the.
Yeah.
So
It's
go
a good
out,
time.
go down there and support Phil. When Phil steps out, it's a comedy, so I think you could probably applaud when Phil steps out.
Oh yeah, please do. I desperately need it because
What-
I definitely don't get that attention around this office. So.
What's your costume?
Oh, I took a buttoned up suit. I think my character comes home from like a ballet, so we're dressed up to the nines.
And people will recognize you.
I think so. Yeah.
You won't be obscured
I'm not wearing a
by it.
mask or
Okay.
deformed. Like I'm not playing John Merrick or anything.
Got it. So go support Phil. Here's a topic. MeatEater podcast saves lives. Now this is incredible.
We haven't hit this in a while. We haven't saved a life in a while, but
No, but we've
Now we're
I don't know,
coming
we should
back.
have like a thing where we track how many lives we saved. Because what was another life we saved? Tourniquets.
Right,
Multiple
that's-
tourniquets.
yeah.
Because
Oh,
when we had an emergency room doctor on just imploring people to carry tourniquets. And then we did the Campfire Stories close calls about tourniquets, and a number of people wrote in either that it informed how they applied tourniquets, or at least they got a tourniquet. Now, what was that episode we did about the guy that got stuck in the toilet vault?
An
American hero and a stuck man?
Yep.
What was this show
I think it
called?
was the Great Toilet Rescue.
An American
like-
hero, a stuck man.
and something. God, I forgot the rest of that. It's a
So
long title.
we had some folks on the show who had rescued a man from a toilet vault, where he climbed down there to get his phone out and got stuck. This led to a lot of people writing in about other situations where people have gone into toilet vaults at boat launches and got stuck in the vault. A state trooper from Michigan wrote in.
No, but this was recent because that episode was like a
No,
while
this,
ago.
no,
and
this is fresh
like,
news. This
just
is like hot
happened. Yeah,
news.
yeah.
This is hot news.
This stuff is just it's so baffling to me.
Well, okay, I am a trooper with Michigan State Police. So if you get pulled over in Michigan for speeding, it's probably this guy. He says, today a DNR officer, my sergeant, and I were dispatched to a boat launch within my post area. So they get an emergency call from a boat launch. He, his sergeant, and a DNR officer, aka game warden, get dispatched. It was reported, this is him telling the story. It was reported that someone was yelling for help. One of the post detective sergeants, he's getting mighty technical. I don't know what that, I'm guessing that's a cop. One of the post detective sergeants was in the area. He responded and located a woman who was stuck in the septic pit of the outhouse at the boat launch. It turns out, people are going to be laughing. It turns out that boat launch septic pits eat people at an alarming rate. What was she trying to fetch? Her Apple Watch. And it's like, there could be a class action suit against Apple because it's iPhones and now an Apple Watch that these people are trying to dig out of there. She had dropped her Apple Watch into the septic pit.
Why? Yeah, why?
Now she was able to enter. Here's where the life saving comes in. She entered through the toilet seat.
Oh.
Got down in there. Okay. Got her watch, but couldn't get back out. Starts screaming for help, and a neighbor hears her cries. Now, the first responders, this is back to the narration from the state trooper. The first responders on scene were trying to figure out how they could get her back out of the septic pit through the toilet seat. Now, listen careful now. Then he goes on to say this, quote, thankfully, I had listened to the episode of the podcast when you talked about a similar situation. To everyone's surprise, I was able to remove the toilet. And this is an important part. When you're stuck in a toilet vault, go down in there, get your stuff. And when it's time to come out, that whole pedestal, as we learned on that episode, that pedestal is removable. So all these people stuck in all these toilets, it's unnecessary if you realize that the pedestal is removable. You do not need to fit out through the seat.
I'm just trying to
So he
profile
astonishes
this
his
woman.
colleagues by removing the pedestal. She's able to hop right out of there.
So I just Googled an Apple Watch costs between like $300 and $600. Like you could not pay me that much to touch
No.
that blue goo.
No, I would get it.
It's not just blue goo.
Oh, well,
But you know
that's
what?
what everything's swimming in. Like there, I can't.
You don't have
imagine.
children.
No.
Your relationship with your relationship with fecal matter changes so much once
sure.
you have kids.
not
I've
that
never
dangerous.
changed a diaper.
It's
I
just-
have a niece.
It goes from like it goes from something that's just a no-go
Yeah.
to being like, it's not pleasant, but I mean, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
It's kind of the attitude you get.
I think it's different with your own kids, though.
For sure.
for
I mean, you
sure.
learn how to walk through your house like this to the bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't touch anything.
I feel like adult fecal matter has to be different than like children.
It's different.
Oh, yeah.
But when I hear someone getting mauled or when I hear someone getting gored by a buffalo in the park, I'm like, yeah, I can see that. When I hear someone get stuck in a toilet vault because their phone, I'm like, yeah, I can see that. Like it's not the cost, it's the inconvenience. If you're on the road,
What does your Apple Watch even do that you need to survive? Like,
but I think of it as her phone.
oh, yeah.
I think we should also just point out that the Michigan State Police put out a news release.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess this goes out to all state police and detailing the situation. But then just at the end, there's another public service announcement. If you lose an item in an outhouse toilet, do not attempt to venture inside the containment area. Serious injury may occur.
Mm-hmm.
So for people who didn't listen to the first episode of this podcast, we are spreading the message yet again.
Yeah, and there's a public safety element to this too, because the guy that got rescued from the one here in Montana, right into the river. First stop.
She went right into the river too.
Oh,
This news release says that she when she was lifted out with a strap, she went right into the river to wash herself off.
that's right, Ed.
Well, if you're on a boat, do you maybe have a fishing pole? Like, could you get a little more inventive than just sticking your body down
I think
an
that,
outhouse
well, the guy
hole?
that did it, the guy that got stuck here was just traveling and just pulled into the, wasn't fishing. Okay, ready, Chester?
Ready.
Okay, Chester is going to. So this is the thing we've been messing with for a long time. Corinne and I actually feel bad about because we wasted. I shouldn't say wasted. There's a machine called the Warner Bratzler
Shear.
Shear
Force meat tender tester.
I had an interaction with one of these years ago where some meat scientists were testing how tender beef was. And I was shocked to learn that there's a machine that applies a number to meat tenderness. So Chester and I have done a lot of different meats in the meat tenderness tester. And Chester is going to demonstrate. Walk us through it, Chester, what you have.
We have got a yearling whitetail, right, Corinne?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And Corinne seared this up last night. Just got the pan real hot, seared it on each side evenly, and we're looking at about a rare cut,
Hold it up so I can see. Yep.
It's about rare. And the way you do it is we're going to take 4 core samples here that I bored out with this here little contraption.
So if you're watching online, you'll be able to see the core sample. If you're not, it's like a core.
Exactly.
It's like a little stainless steel hole cutter.
Yep. And I cut the meat. I cut 1 inch off of this little piece here, and I made these core samples, and I went with the grain. I cut with the grain, so they're all consistent. And that's
so when
very
it goes
important.
into the shear to measure its tenderness, it'll be cutting cross grain
Against the grain.
Got it.
Which is important. And this thing measures in kilograms of force, which is an international standard for testing how tender meat is. So we're going to throw it in there, and we're going to do 4, I don't know, maybe 3. There's 3 good cores here. We'll do 3 tests, force tests, and then we'll get, we'll average these out, and we'll get how actual tender this meat is.
Got it. What's interesting about this is one of the things we're going to cover today is a letter just went out from the Michigan DNR basically begging deer hunters to kill does. The doe, I can't believe this. The doe harvest in Michigan is actually down.
Huh.
When I was a kid growing up in Michigan, if you drew a doe tag, you would like apply for doe tags and wait in the licking your lips hoping to get a doe tag, you know? Did you hear Bob got a doe tag? And everybody be like really excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
They cannot get, so agricultural damage, you have issues of disease transmission, you have issues of highway safety, you have herd health issues, just general herd stress issues. And people are not shooting does. And they're being begged to shoot does. I don't live there anymore, but it's like they're writing letters being like, please. Not that you can't shoot a buck, get some does too. And just, I don't know, what the hell is everybody eating?
It's a national problem.
It is.
Yeah, we put an article out just yesterday talking nationally about that issue, people not shooting enough does. I mean, Levi and both from Pennsylvania. We had the same system. You put in for a doe tag, maybe you got one, maybe you didn't. Now you can get 6.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that most hunters won't even shoot one.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing that trend nationally where the buck harvest is actually equal to or even higher than the antlerless harvest.
Yeah.
And it's a problem. Yeah.
I don't, what do you think it is?
I think it's a lot of things. I think you have more people really prioritizing mature bucks, which is good from the recreational end of things. But what happens is they're sitting there making a judgment. Well, I'd really like to fill this doe tag, but if I shoot that doe, is that buck I'm after right behind her? Am I going to ruin that somehow?
Yeah.
And then they say things like, well, I'm going to do it in the late season. Well, then the late season comes and everybody's burned out and nobody does it.
But my friends that are serious about, like friends of mine that are serious about land management on their properties, they hunt during the rut, they hunt bucks.
Yeah.
Later, they get serious about doe killing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my buddy Doug Durnell, they kill 30 does a year. I got another friend, they kill 20 plus does a year off their property.
Yeah.
I got a friend in Texas, they kill hundreds of does a year off their property, but they make a time and make it an effort. And like after the regular hunting's done, they get busy.
Yeah.
They're educated managers, and I think that's the difference. Uneducated managers prioritize that buck so much that they don't understand that they're actually hurting their chances at a mature buck by not shooting does.
You know, that's funny. Like this friend of mine in Texas, he's in an area, there's no ag. Okay. So it's not like a ag issue. It's not protecting alfalfa and corn because he's in a non-ag area. Very rural. There's not like a highway collision issue. You ask those guys why they kill does? They kill does because they like big bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, they're trying to lower stress.
Yep.
They're like lowering stress, lowering overpopulation, and it's all about buck management.
Yeah. Well, I think PA they made it so hard to get doe tags forever. You had to go to the courthouse and get them, and I'm like, you could buy a buck tag at Walmart.
Pink envelopes.
Yeah.
That just went away this year.
Yeah. Now we can finally buy doe tags over the counter. So I got my son's whole baseball team buying doe tags for the unit my farm's in. I'm just going to take all the kids and just turn them loose.
That's a great idea, man.
That sounds like a blast.
Yeah. A good way to introduce kids to hunting, too.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, for sure, man. Yeah.
kill a
Dude, my
bunch of
kids
does.
get so excited about doe tags. All right, Chester, walk us through. That was an interlude.
So we're looking at a scale from like 2 to 6 here on my guess on what this is going to be. 5 starting at a 5, it's like kind of unacceptable. Meaning it's going to be tough.
When we had that meat scientist from Purdue on,
Nebraska.
he was from University of Nebraska. Okay. What did I say? Purdue? What the hell's that? Sounds like that's a big ag school.
A big ag school too. Yeah.
University of Nebraska. That's what he was talking about. Is when a customer goes and buys a steak, and they're dissatisfied with their steak because it was too tough. It's a what now?
Like a 5.
Okay.
Meaning, I think what that means in the kilograms of force, it's like unacceptable.
Got it. To a paying customer or whatever, unacceptable beef.
Like a 2 is like, holy cow, that's a tender piece of meat. 3 is like, that's still pretty good. 4 is like, that's starting to get tough. 5 is like,
got it.
No.
So 2, if you're in this place and you get a steak and you're like, my goodness, that steak's tender, could be in the 2.
Right.
If you're like, holy cow, that steak's unpalatable, it's a 5.
Yeah.
Where you're like getting little bits of the steak out and put it in your napkin because you could never get it chewed through.
Yeah, it's like you're chewing a piece of gum. Might be a 5.
Okay, so Chester cut the core out and he loaded it into the shear force machine.
Yep.
And now what happens?
Right now, it's not zeroed out.
Well, I've been trying to zero that thing the whole time
fine.
I've
So
been here.
we're gonna add 0.31 on.
You can't get it zero? There's no tear button on there? Terre? It's like French for zero? It's not, but my scale has.
I was like, is that really French for 0?
What does that mean? Terre.
Because it's on all my bow scales.
We're gonna subtract
Yeah.
Yeah, what does that mean?
3-0
.30. Okay.
from this.
That's how you zero out both scales.
Steve, do you want me to
You're gonna
punch
do
in
the
on that?
Math or
Do some
Bill,
live.
or-
Sure.
Well, the fact that we can't get zeroed is distressing.
Well,
Is it the weight of the shear?
it could be. It
I
could
think
be,
the
but they're all
scale's
pretty
balanced.
consistent. So I feel like we could.
That's okay. We'll just subtract.
Phil, maybe don't zoom in
0.30.
because then people won't know that the scales that it's off.
Well,
No, zoom in. Okay, so it's
MeatEater
0.3.
Labs.
Yeah.
We're like in a very professional lab setup here.
Yeah.
Everything is accurate.
Yeah.
Me and Chester got our lab. I'm sweating because I got my lab coat on. I got Corinne's lab coat today.
The way we could do this, Corinne, is just write both numbers down,
Yep,
the
sure.
actual number, and then subtract
Yep.
that.
Sounds good.
Okay, so just so this year, when you're out there sitting there, and a whitetail, a youngster, whitetail fawn comes by, and you're like, well, if I shoot that, I might not have a buck. Keep this in mind. How tender is that thing that you let just walk past?
And just by cutting into this, I think it's going to be
Acceptable.
acceptable. Exceptional.
He hit the button. Now it's shearing the meat.
Been very intrigued about this machine.
Ooh.
That is some
Holy
tender meat.
cow.
0.82
We're at an 8-2.
minus
So
0.30, so
I think,
1.5
Corinne, it's-
basically.
If we, I feel like we don't subtract it. I don't know, because it's like, I don't know. What do you guys think? It's like taking
We
that
gotta call
measurement
Chris-
at
we
the
gotta call
shear.
Dr. Chris.
We'll just do both.
What are you doing both of?
And we're going to do that number, and we're going to still record that, and then we're also going to subtract that
Got it.
Right.
0.30.
And just for consistency's sake, maybe we do like another one. Yeah.
Yeah, do one more. Next time we do this, we're going to get the meanest old buck you've ever seen, man,
Well,
and run them through there.
well,
Like the kind of buck that like eats rabbits.
we have a little mini series called Test My Meat. Throughout the next couple of weeks, we'll have some videos on social media, on Instagram, maybe on TikTok, where we test. What did we test? Gator,
Old elk,
old elk.
meat that's been in the freezer for a decade.
Yep.
We had people just sent us all
Sandhill
kinds
crane,
of stuff.
I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we got
so,
crane.
Yep.
People sent us all kinds of stuff to test. Old bear meat, not old bear meat, tough bear meat.
Mm-hmm.
We had a guy send in a bear. He's like, you can't eat this bear. It's so tough. And we ran that through the Warner Braxler.
I like this idea of getting like baselines of meats, because then I think we need to do like MeatEater test kitchen. Be like, how can we take this gnarly old meat and make it more tender?
Exactly. You hitting it, Chester? Yeah, it'd be interesting to take a piece of shoulder meat, run it through the tenderness tester, and then slow cook one and run it through the
Or
tenderness
do like a
tester.
brine, do like a
Yeah.
marinade, do like a slow smoke.
That's a
like
good idea.
Whew, that is some tender.
this is what I
meat
do
right
in my
there.
kitchen all the time. I just don't have a cool machine to test it.
So what'd that
It's-
come out
it's
to,
the
Chester?
tooth test.
1.77
And
kilograms of force. 2 is tender,
two is tender.
like real tender.
So when
That's
you're
like
looking at
melting
that
your
whitetail fawn walk by, he's more tender than tender.
He's more tender than tender.
Or she, based on what we were just talking about.
So, Corinne,
Oh, yeah, she.
Hopefully
no,
a she. Yeah. Button bucks, that's frowned upon.
real
Yeah. Well, don't start that because then you complicate it too much for people.
Corinne,
Then people get nervous.
this is just so everyone knows, this is a back strap,
Right.
And when did you shoot this deer? And do you know how long it's like been in your freezer?
I shot this deer let's see, it was like cull at the end of the season. I think it was December.
December.
I think it was December.
So it was last
Like,
year.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
been sitting in there not
mhm,
quite a year.
Mm-hmm.
Good job, Corinne.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Maggie Hudlow is going to come in, and since it is Whitetail Week, Maggie Hudlow is going to come in and tell us about some highlights from Whitetail content.
Yeah, so one of our most exciting things we've got going on is from our firearms expert, Jordan Sillers, because we know how much everyone loves to complain about caliber battles. So now we are letting all of you listeners, readers, interact. We are doing a Whitetail Week caliber battle bracket, March Madness style. It is October Madness, so Shark Week, March Madness. We're ripping everybody off here. It's it's gonna be great. So we have a few rounds. You get to cast your vote on the MeatEater.com in the comment section below the articles of what caliber you think is the best whitetail cartridge. And whatever caliber wins that one goes on to the next round. And kind of another interesting twist to this is everybody is picked around. So Clay's got one, Spencer's got one, Garrett's got one, Mark's got one. So we'll see who picked the best cartridge.
And the best, the listener's choice, audience choice favorite will emerge.
Yes.
And what's the criteria for the best? It's just your personal opinion, right?
Highest public, yeah, but the highest public support.
Yeah.
Gotcha. What, meaning what takes a deer down really well without ruining the meat, ruin as much meat, you know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, and
it's a measurement of public opinion, correct?
Mm-hmm. It's also like the article itself is structured like Jordan's other caliber battles, so he takes into account like the availability of it, the shootability. I forget. There's one more category in there. Gosh, I read so many of these things. You think I'd know it by heart. So people can read these things and kind of make up their own mind if they don't already have an opinion. And when you do go on these and comment, you can just say like, oh, I think it's the 308 Winchester, or I think it's a 6.5 Creedmoor. And you can also say why. So if you are very opinionated on this thing, like you can let everybody know, or you can just say like, oh, it's this one. So that's how you can cast your vote.
What do you predict will win?
Oh, people really like the 6.5 Creedmoor, and they've really liked to talk about it. And I feel like people who like the 6.5 Creedmoor are very opinionated.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm leaning towards, because I feel like that's the most vocal gun support group.
And it's a pretty trendy round, too.
It's very trendy.
That's what my kids shoot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's great. My boyfriend's got one, and I shot it the other day. I was like, did that shoot? I didn't feel it. You sure you want to shoot that gun, honey?
No, I have my kids shoot SIG crosses with suppressors. And my 10-year-old daughter is she's made out of cables. She's very thin and tough, but thin. And she shoots that and can just shoot.
That's awesome.
Not getting kicked. She kind of laughs after she shoots because she's so amped up that it's going to do something bad to her. And then kids confuse too. They confuse the noise with kick.
Mm.
So once you really mitigate, I'll still put headphones on her and it's suppressed. And just because it's not so overpowering the loudness, she feels like she translates that to a lack of kick. It's super helpful, man.
That's awesome.
I used to dread shooting my gun.
Yeah,
when I was a kid, I dreaded pulling the trigger.
Yeah, learn not to flinch like that young.
Sure.
Yeah, I
Dead
mean,
eye.
well, my kids, I'm babying them, putting the noise protections. My son's got a 6.5 Creedmoor too, and my dad was leaning me up against a tractor tire with a 30-06 and shoving tissue paper in my head.
Right.
It's good luck. It's okay. That's probably why I can't hear anything either. So
I think my first rifle was a 7 mag with no ear protection, and
Same.
here you go.
Oh,
As
yeah,
you're a
zero
little
ear
kid.
protection.
yeah.
God,
I remember
that
the
was
first
awful.
time. I remember the first time I shot. First time I shot a shotgun. Of course, it was a sawed-off 12 gauge. Knocked me on my ass, and I was like, okay, ready to go. And deer hunting, my old man and his buddy Eugene or whatever. I remember them. I got to be old enough to hunt with a gun. I remember they filled a gallon milk jug full of water, marched it across Eugene's yard, set it on a fence post probably 60 yards out. And if you hit that milk jug, I was like, all right, let's go. Good enough.
Good enough. Close enough.
Yeah, your ears are ringing for 3 days.
Oh yeah.
All right, we're gonna get into a film you really got to check out. Whitetail, America's wild tale America's wildest conservation success story. Nick, lay it out.
Yeah. We're very proud of this. It's a great film. It's one aspect of a larger initiative called the Southeast Deer Partnership, which is made up the 15 southeastern U.S. states as part of the Association for Fish and Wildlife Agencies. So we have a lot of partners on this. The company that we worked with to do this is called Strategic Digital Services. Joe Clemens is the executive producer. They just did an outstanding job. We couldn't be happier about it. And the reason we did this, number one, because it's never been done before, but number two, as we talked about at the beginning, there are so many critical things that people don't know about deer, other than don't hit one with my car or where can I go shoot one. They don't think about them a whole lot. And so a documentary of this type we thought would be a really good vehicle to get this in front of folks to watch it, and not just hunters, like I said, but anybody that cares about wildlife at all. So it's been, producing this thing has been fun, but now that it went from research on the front end where we had to go and look at the numbers, because that's something else that was never done. We would talk all the time about how important deer are, but we couldn't really put numbers to it. And so we worked with responsive management to do some survey work. And this is, again, dialed in on those southeastern states. Now, we do have plans and have just talked about broadening this out nationwide. But we found some critical things. I mean, just in the southeast, 209,000 jobs because of deer hunting. $5.5 billion in salaries because of deer hunting. Not
in
just,
the southeast.
Just in the southeast. And so we want to figure out what this is nationally because it's huge. And as I said at the outset, 8 out of 10 people that buy a hunting license are hunting deer. Every time somebody hangs up the rifle or the bow and doesn't do that anymore, it has an impact on these numbers. Pittman-Robertson dollars is something that you've talked a lot about on the show. So in 2001, there were $679 million that came out of that fund. Through the analysis, we found out about 294 of that is just from deer hunting. Now that's nationally.
Yep.
So it's a huge number. And so this project originally was, I'll give Larry Williams from the Fish and Wildlife Service credit for this. We had a conversation about 5 years ago saying, hey, this is a critical issue. Nobody's talking about it. We need to shed some light on this. And so he went and found the resources and helped pull this together. And to do the research, which I said is phase one, and now do the documentary Whitetail and blast this out to a whole bunch of people so that they can see it and get the word out about this issue. Because again, if you're a bird watcher living in Iowa, you should care about deer. And we think people don't for the most part. So it's important.
I sat for interviews in the film, but then now I haven't had a chance. I'm a little backed up on film watching. I sat for interviews in the film, but haven't watched the film yet, which I'm excited to do, and I'm going to do it this weekend. Clay Newcomb sits for interviews.
Yep.
Who else you got? I mean, you got tons of biologists.
Yeah, we got folks
hunters.
from the states, the southeastern states for sure. Folks from my organization. Dustin Lynch, very popular country music artist, is the narrator. As you said, you and Clay are in it as well. And so really went out and got all the top people, the top voices to talk about this issue from all the different aspects. I mean, you cover a lot of very interesting aspects that I know people don't think about in the film. Clay does the same thing. We have the state wildlife biologist on there talking about what it means to their state.
You know what else funny about Clay? He said, he goes, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but I didn't expect it to be so good.
No, I love it.
He loved it, man.
Yeah, he told us. Yeah, he was at one of the premieres. So we've been premiering this thing in different places in the country. I'll actually be in Virginia next week.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah. So we're doing premieres. Love to do one out here sometime if there's a possibility to do that.
Oh, there definitely would be.
Yeah, so we'd love to do that. But as part of the research, state biologists were polled about what do you feel the importance is of deer to the funding of your agency, and out of 10, it was 8.4. And so even though, especially a deer biologist will tell you, a lot of them don't like the public because there's no more polarizing animal than deer, but they recognize that they really are buttering the bread of the conservation of all species. So most of a state wildlife's budget is funded through things that trace all the way back to deer and deer hunting.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the critical thing we have to get out there. The film, as I said, right now we're premiering, so doing that across the country, but it's going to be available for rent or purchase on Amazon and iTunes and Google Play on October 27th. So that's coming up very soon. But the main goal of this, it's not to sell the movie as much as it is to get this in front of as many eyeballs as possible, so that I tell people in our organization, I have a dream someday that somebody will join the National Deer Association that has no intention of shooting a deer.
Yep.
And that may sound crazy, but if you look at Ducks Unlimited, one of the things that's very impressive about them is people buy duck stamps and they don't even care to shoot a duck, but they care about conservation. We need to make that happen with deer. And Kip Adams is our chief conservation officer. He leads this project for us, and we were texting about this before I come out here. That's the chief concern. Deer are conservation, whether it be threatened and endangered species, all the way through songbirds. They matter. It's important.
When Phil's done down there at the Ellen, maybe we can do like a screening down there or something like that. Think about that, Phil. How many seats are in that place?
I honestly don't know. It's a couple hundred, though, I'd say.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a few hundred.
That'd be fun.
But
we should see if you guys could bring your film to this town.
Yeah, we'll do it. Absolutely. We'd love to
promote it.
That's what we want to hear.
Chester, get up and play a song.
Even better yet, will you wear the goggles too?
At all these things, is people are they're gonna show up expecting to watch, be there for conservation, and then I'm gonna get up there and sing a song. People are gonna be like, "Who the hell's this guy?"
Yeah, you need to get like a pyrotechnics package and stuff. Chester,
yeah, I need to do something. Just really
like
get everyone
machines
going.
and sparks and stuff shooting everywhere.
Yeah.
To Clay's point, real quick though, I understand why he would say that because it's even better than I thought it would be.
Oh, really? Oh, so you're guilty too?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a bunch of redneck deer hunters and biologists putting a film together. What could go wrong, Levi? But no, I mean that's again where I thought Strategic Digital Services really brought that professional. I mean, you watch this thing; it's as good as any documentary you'll watch in anything. So we're proud of it. Yep.
So lay out again for folks how to check it out. So it's you tour it. You got tour dates coming up?
Right now, the last one we have is scheduled for October 4th in Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
Yep. We've already been in Kentucky, Arkansas, and Nashville, and so that's what
now.
We have
Is it relevant to northern audiences and?
I think it is. We want to take it there. So we've just had conversations in Calgary about how do we now make this the national.
Well, yeah,
story.
you meant like northern U.S., right?
But yeah. But it is. It absolutely is relevant because the numbers, they're going to be a little bit different for each region. But I think the main point is driven home that deer really matter beyond just something you shoot or avoid with your car.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then tell people again how to go. So if they want to go see it and not catch it live, how do they go see it?
Yep. So on October 27th, will be available on Amazon, iTunes, and Google Play. And if you want to see information on the film, you just go to wildtailmovie.com and it'll show you everything you need to know to find it.
Great. And then tell us a little bit about National Deer Association too, because I think that like people know, and I'm a lifetime member and supporter of Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. So a lot of times hunters will have, hunters want to do habitat work and benefit of the things they love to hunt.
Yep.
So Ducks Unlimited is primarily, a very hunting friendly, hunter focused organization focused on ducks. You have Quail Forever, Pheasant Forever, where people that love to hunt quail, love to hunt pheasants. Yep. Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, people that love to hunt elk. I think it's maybe less widely known that there's a organization that works on behalf of deer specifically. So plug that out for folks.
Yeah, so we've been terrible at promoting ourselves. Imagine that. We're so focused on deer and the habitat part of it. We've been around for 35 years. Mm-hmm. We were originally known as the Quality Deer Management Association until about 3 years ago when we merged with the National Deer Alliance to create the National Deer Association. So our mission is to ensure the future of wild deer, wildlife habitat, and hunting, which should be core to that we said 8 out of 10 people buy a hunting license, so a lot of people ought to care about that. And we really are the only organization that, from a deer perspective, that digs into the science. So we do a lot of interpretation of the science, everything from deer diseases all the way through how to grow a great food plot, how to kill something, all of those things. As I said yesterday, we just had the article talking about doe harvest from Lindsey Thomas Jr., our Chief Communications Officer. So it's educational. It's also entertaining, but we also do a lot of policy work as well. I tell people that any day of the week, there's probably 100 different bills across the country that have some impact on deer and deer hunting. And so we have, Torrin Miller, a policy guy out there doing policy work in the states, in the federal government, so spending time in D.C. So we're white collar, we're blue collar, we're biologists, and I'm really proud of what we've done. What I'm not proud of is we haven't done the best job of telling people about what we've done. So Whitetail will help us do that, being on shows like this, our relationship with you all. Doing the tour right now with Mark Kenyon and going around and looking at all the conservation projects that we're working on together. I think 3 of those projects are ours. The back 40 that we got through you all, we've had already,
how's the old back 40 doing?
It's doing awesome.
I was asking Mark about that recently.
Yeah, we can't get rid of Mark, but other than that, it's going great. He seems to always show up there. But just this year, I think we had 6 or 7 hunters on the first Field to Fork event that we had out there this year were successful.
Is that right?
Killing deer, yeah, and we'll get back and we'll
great,
make 6 or 7 more people successful. So we're taking a lot of deer there. We've now developed relationships with neighbors out there who are letting us come on their property
for doe harvest. And
yeah,
stuff?
because when it started, and this is Michigan, and you've been on the property. Not everyone is excited about this idea. We're going to bring people in and shoot all these deer in their neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
But it's coming around, and people are kind of embracing it. So we have used the back 40 as a model for it. I think we're doing with it what you all had hoped we would do with it.
That's great,
and we're
man.
very proud of that.
I always felt that the squirrel numbers were disappointing to me out there.
I saw that episode.
How's that coming along? You guys doing a lot of squirrel improvements?
I was
bringing in 100-year-old oak trees and planting them.
We'll have to add that to the list. We do have a local branch out there, which is very helpful. So it's local volunteers that are managing that land.
Yeah.
We pick on Mark, but he's part of that effort that helps do that. And so we can't. It's hard for us to do it from the national organization, but our branch does it. And I will put on the list squirrel habitat.
Great. So you had 6 people get their first deer?
Yeah, it might have been 7. Yeah, just our first hunt of the year out there.
Oh, that's fun, man.
Yeah.
Already this year?
This year. Yeah, this
no
season.
kidding.
Early season. Yep.
It's great.
Yep.
And getting along with the neighbors good.
It seems to be.
Excellent, man. Excellent. Yep. All right, everybody, check out Whitetail, America's wildest conservation success story. Set for release on October 27 on Amazon, iTunes, and Google Play. So you'll go see Phil, cheer him on,
Yeah, thanks.
and then race home and watch Whitetail. Do the dates line up for that plan for that evening? That's a hell of a date night.
Yeah, I think you can make it work. Have some coffee beforehand. You'll be fine.
All right, Levi Morgan. I want to dig back into. Oh, hold on a minute. Maggie, are we good, or we got more we want to talk about?
Oh, for Whitetail Week?
Yeah. Did I skip anything?
I mean, we got a whole lot that we're going to be putting out on Whitetail Week. It's worth taking a look at the MeatEater site. We've got articles from Tony Peterson and Mark Kenyon. We've got a video from Levi. We've got lots of video content. Check out the MeatEater site. Check out Wired to Hunt. We'll be putting out fresh whitetail content more than you can consume every day.
All right. Perfect. Now, Levi Morgan, 16-time world champion. But here's the thing I'm important is let's pick it back up with you and your wife. You competed against each other at 9 years of age.
Yeah. In the IBO, there's a class called the Cub class.
Okay.
And so when you're really young, you just all shoot against kids. And so probably till I was
Is she older than you?
a year older.
Okay.
Yeah. And Samantha Klein was her name back then. And it was like, man, I had a huge crush on her then, but like, I dominated the Cub class. That was my glory days. Like, but I was just
Is that part of that 16-time?
No,
world
that's all
champion?
professional.
Okay.
Since I turned professional, but I was a little kid in jean shorts and knee socks and hiking boots and a polo shirt tucked in it. So she wasn't impressed.
Did you say you quit for a while?
Yeah, in high school. So
what happened there? I know you got into other baseball and basketball.
Yeah.
And stuff,
So when I think the last tournament I shot was the IBO World Championship when I was 14 as an amateur and won that. Set a world record and walked away from the sport.
What was the world record?
It was the first time that ever been cleaned, no 8s, all 10s through 50 arrows. So I never missed a 10 through 50 arrows.
But walked away.
Yeah. I would just
walked away like dramatically?
No,
or just,
no.
Oh,
just
okay.
my dad was always my coach, and it was just one of those things where he always demanded if he was going to take me around to compete nationally, that I was going to put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just one of those things where I knew with high school, I was starting high school, I wanted to play sports. Girls were coming into the equation.
Old Amanda.
Yeah.
She's out of the picture, though.
Samantha?
Oh, Samantha.
Let's not talk about Amanda on here for sure.
Samantha was out of the picture. Samantha Klein. Samantha Klein
Samantha.
is out of the picture at this point.
Yes. So I just knew I wasn't going to be able to put into the sport what I needed to compete at a high level. So I just decided, hey, if I want to come back to it later, I will. And I just focused on school and sports. And just so when I graduated, I knew like I had this desire to go back and dig back in. So
What was the age? I got two things I want to know now before just to set this up. First off, at what age did you shoot your first arrow at a deer?
at a deer would have been probably like,
Which is, I guess, different than hitting one.
yeah, I would have been probably 8 or 9.
Okay.
Yeah. And where I grew
So
up,
you guys were a hunting family.
oh yeah, that's the whole way I got into it. My dad was a big hunter, so he just started going to local tournaments and took me along just to get better at
Got
shooting. And we grew up in the Carolinas, hunting all game lands there. So he used to tell me, "You're going to get one opportunity a year, so make it count." And it was like that was the truth back then. Like we didn't see a lot. We would go 2 weeks and maybe see 1 or 2 deer.
I mean, just hunting public ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got it.
And so
That was his thing was like, don't let the shooting be the limiting factor.
exactly. Yeah. When you get an opportunity, make it count. And I did not the first few years I bow hunted, but I think I killed my first deer with a bow when I was 12 on that game land in South Carolina, and it was a 10-point. And
Was it a nice buck?
It was nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for then it couldn't have been any bigger to me, you know.
Yeah.
But
So were you were you sitting to stand by yourself at 9 years of age?
oh yeah. So I shot with my first deer with a rifle at 10 in an old Summit Climber with a 270 by myself.
Caliber battle.
Yeah, I
Put that
can't-
down for caliber battle right there.
I can't imagine turning my
One for the
10-year-old
1
loose.
point for the 270.
But it was just
Would you get scared being up there?
no.
See,
I
when
would get scared at dark.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I always remember this when I was a little kid and I didn't start sitting in a tree by myself. In Michigan, you had to be 12 to hunt with a bow. I can't remember if I started gun hunting a little bit earlier than you're supposed to. Like you're supposed to be at that time, you had to be 14 to hunt with a gun, but we'd usually get started a little earlier.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure this was against the rules.
Against the rules.
What I was doing.
Yeah, it was just like I guess my old man just looked at it like, well, he was ahead of the curve,
Right.
Because in the end, most states decided that it's a family decision,
Right, yeah.
and he just made it a family decision before it was a family decision. But I remember, man, being in that tree stand at 12 and just being fine.
Yeah.
And it'd get dark, and you had to wait for the old man to come
Yep.
around, and you'd be like, "What is that guy doing?" And
Every time I thought he left me.
praying to see that flashlight
Oh,
coming through
yeah.
the trees, man. You know, oh, it used to scare me because I used to go. We had this big ravine on this farm we'd hunt, and you'd go down the bottom of this ravine, dude, and it seemed like you were you're like in Lewis and Clark country, man.
Oh, yeah.
When you're down at the bottom of that ravine.
We had 2-way radios.
Oh, you did?
But
Oh,
my
yeah.
dad wouldn't let me talk on it. We had this Morse code thing where I had to
Oh, you had to
click it because he was like,
Oh.
"You're gonna spook all the deer." So I was like, "Okay." I just randomly start clicking it and hoping he answered. But yeah,
So he'd come pick you up.
yeah. But like you said, some nights it's an hour after dark. I'm up there in tears, like something happened.
Yeah.
And the rule was I couldn't get down until he got there.
Well, that's what we had, and every
Yeah.
stump takes his turn looking like a bear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you toughen up quick, I think.
Oh, I think so, man.
Yeah.
How does a tournament work? Like lay out the yardages and target size and stuff. I mean, it's consistent, right? I mean, like every tournament you go to is the what do you call it? The course. I mean,
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, of course.
The course is the same, right?
No, it's totally different.
Like indoors it changes.
Oh no, indoor archery is would be called FIDA archery or
Yeah.
an NFAA. So that's all just the same yardage, the same face, doing the same thing every shot. It's more like turn your brain off and just repeat over and over and over.
And that's because that's what I'm trying to think of is differentiate what people might be familiar with watching the Olympics, for instance,
Right.
To what you're doing.
Yeah, and the Olympics is the same, but outdoors. It's 50 meters or 70 meters, whatever it is now. And they just stand there and just shoot the same yardage.
Got
So
it.
and I shoot those organizations as well, the NFAA, and I've had success there. But what I really love is 3D, and so that's the course. It's like a trail shoot almost, where there's no rangefinders. Every target's a different distance. It's like hunting simulation type.
And what are the yardages wind up being in that case?
So it's 0 to 50 approximately. And so, it's just you might go to a black bear target that's 38, and then you shoot that one, score, go to the next one, and it's a coyote target at 51 down a canyon, So it's just every shot's different.
And then is a 10, how's it scored out?
Yeah, so you have, in the ASA, it's a little different than the IBO. The ASA, the 10 is always kind of par. And like if you're a golfer, like that would be, they say a 10's your friend. And I agree in a way, but if you want to win, it's kind of not your friend. I mean, then you have a 12, which is a pretty risky shot. If you miss the 10, you're an 8. If you miss that, you're a 5. And then if you miss the whole target, it's a 0.
Okay.
So the rings just get bigger and less.
And what does the 12 wind up being?
So the 12 sits down like the 10 is like a 5-inch circle, and then the 12 is in the lower back corner of the 10 ring. So it's kind of risky. Like if you shoot it at that and hit low,
you're flirting with the 8.
Yes, you're flirting with. If you hit low, you flirt with the 8. And then in the finals, we have what's called a 14. So it's a bonus, and it's up by itself in the corner of the 8 ring. So you're flirting with the 5. It's like if you go for that, you miss, there's no par. Like you're dropping, So it's a.
So I know I've shot in the past, and there's like, I think how it works is 5, and then 8, 10, and 10x.
Okay. Yep. So that was the old IBO rules.
Okay.
So it was a center X in the 10 ring.
Yeah.
And that was when Cabela's had the NABH and the tour, and they broke ties with the X's. And that when I said when I was 14 and shot a 500, so the 500 was 50 out of 50 targets. That's all 10s, and it was an X at that point. But they don't do the X anymore.
Gotcha.
So the IBO, that's an 11 now. The center ring is an 11.
Gotcha.
And ASA, the lower ring is a 12. So now it's all bonus rings. There's no X, or it's tiebreakers or on bonus rings. But
Gotcha.
So 500 was the highest score I could shoot at that time because there was no bonus rings.
And so walk folks through what the range is like number of targets, how long it takes to shoot the course, how many arrows you're going to shoot.
Yeah, so for qualifying in a like a major 3D event, we'll shoot 20 targets on a Friday, 20 targets on Saturday, so 40 total. You'll have 4 to 5 man groups. Takes about 3.5 to 4 hours to shoot the course. And then at the end of that 40 targets, they take the top 5, and then we go into the finals on Saturday night, and then shooting for the win and shooting. So there'll be 5 in the Open Pro, 5 in the Women Pro, so down the line.
Yep. And when you're doing that, is there the no rangefinder thing surprises me. Like are you commiserating with other shooters?
No.
So you're keeping what's in your head in your head.
Yeah, you can't talk about it. You can't hint about it. You can't do any of that. So
are you able to observe them closely?
The targets?
No. Are you with the other shooters? Are you standing right next to them?
Yeah, like we're standing next to each other judging these yardages, and it's just a educated guess. So I'm using.
And you keep your judgment to yourself.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Got it.
And then it's like you're using everything. Everybody thinks that they call me a walking rangefinder, and I'm not at all. I'm not. I'm like, if you only knew like the numbers that went through my head before I shot that. It's just a good decision. Like you're listening to how long it takes your competitor's arrow to get there. You're listening and you're using everything around you to like fine tune that window of yardages that it could be. Then you have, say, after everybody and after like it's my turn to shoot and I'm like, it could be 42, it could be 45. Now I have just to make a smart play with that window of yardages that I think it could be to definitely stay in the 10 and give myself a chance to hit a bonus ring.
Yeah, I was curious what so let's say you're talking in the 40 to 50 yard range.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously the exact number is helpful.
Yeah.
What's just like what's a good guess? Okay, the known distance is 51 yards.
Right.
What is too far off with your guess?
It depends on where you're aiming. And me personally, I aim at every 12. I can't help it. Like
you're shooting for 12.
Yeah, so I have to play my safety with my numbers. So if it's 51 yards, the perfect play would have been 51.5 for me. It gives you a little bit of room to make a weakish shot and still hit a 12. And if I make a perfect shot, I might clip the top of the 12 too. but it definitely keeps me in the 10 ring.
And then what talk about the gear you guys use and what the regulations on gear is.
Yeah, we're allowed, binos, and we're shooting. Everybody for the most part is shooting a lens in our scopes. 3 to 5 power is probably the most common. Back when I was younger, in my early 20s, I won everything with no lens. I just shot an up pin, no lens. But everybody's shooting 35 to 40-inch axle-to-axle bows, long stabilizer deals. Very stable platforms for that. But no rangefinders, no electronics in our binos, none of that stuff. So.
Back tension release.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of guys shoot.
I go back and forth between a back tension and a thumb button, because target panic still rears its head every once in a while. I've dealt with it my whole life, and so I'll shoot a thumb button really light because I shoot that the best. And then when I feel those demons coming on, I switch to a hinge release and shoot that for a year, and then go back and just kind of back and forth.
Gotcha.
Talk about what you use for a sight.
So for tournaments, I'm using what's called an Excel Achieve, and so it's 1 pin on a mover, pretty much for people that hunt.
And you got a calibrated tape, obviously.
Yeah, down to you can set it to the 10th of a yard.
No kid.
Yeah, and so like one click is just like so minute, and so it's just a very micro adjustable, tunable sight, and shooting like a 10 thou blue fiber, so it doesn't starburst, so you can really pinpoint aiming. And running a light kit to that, like an LP light that you can dim down.
So you can have a battery device on there.
On your bow, yeah. So you can.
But nothing that projects.
No, it can't project light. It can only be to light your pin.
Yep.
And so, now the bows now, we're literally shooting them. I'm shooting them pretty much out of the box. When I was 20, you took them apart and rebuilt them. You had to know how to pretty much build a bow back then. Limb pockets were sloppy. You were shimming cams, shimming limbs. I should have had a sponsor from JB Weld when I was 20 because that's how I built stuff. So it's
Is that right?
Yeah, it's changed tremendously.
So at what age were you messing with your own bow?
I was really lucky to grow up in an area, had a ton of really good talent in that Western North Carolina circuit. Some of the first guys that won a ton took me under their wings. My dad was really my only coach on the mental and shooting side of things. But I had some really good mentors like Scott Cope and an older guy named Dave that took me under and just showed me how to work on bows and showed me why, when things would go wrong, why, how to build arrows, how to tune. I would say probably 15 to 20. Even though I wasn't competing, I was learning a lot from like the Scott Cope. So 18 was my rookie year when I graduated, and Scott Cope, that year I learned more about bows than I'd ever learned in my entire life from hardships. Because my rookie year, I shot as good as I do now, but it was the little things that I wasn't doing that kept me from winning. And so,
little things from a gear standpoint.
Meant, just the way I was attacking the range, everything. But yeah, mostly just my setup type stuff.
What percent do you think when it comes to success in a tournament? This might be hard to answer. What percent is equipment and what percent's mental? Because everybody's probably got good gear, right?
Yeah, it's 99% mental.
Because everybody's got access to the same stuff. There's no secrets.
Yeah. No, and then you stand on the practice range at the bags, there'll be 300 shooters. And if you said, if you can't see the faces, just off the groups in the bag, who's going to win? They all look the same. Everybody shoots just as good pretty much. Even through the amateur ranks at these competitions, there's incredible shooters, but it's the little things and your plan, strategy.
Back that up for me.
Yeah.
Tell me that again. So if you walk up and you got 300 shooters.
On the bag, like practice bags.
Okay.
So like there's a bag line.
So like pre-tournament practice bags.
Yeah, and everybody's out there just checking tapes, checking their equipment. And like the top amateurs are shooting groups like
gotcha
at 50.
So you wouldn't be able to stroll down groups and see like, oh, this guy's all over the place, this guy's tight.
Yeah, I mean occasionally, but for the most part, the people that show up to these tournaments are very top level archers.
Like in a controlled situation, they're going to all shoot good.
But it's when that horn sounds and it's for score, that's when everybody starts going away. And it's just like the pressure and knowing you can't make a mistake and people's mental approach. It's just the little
mental game, man. It's just gotta be.
It's insane because most sports you have that adrenaline spike and you use that. like football or baseball or basketball to run faster, hit harder, throw further.
Yeah, you're like crushing Gatorades against your head.
Exactly. In archery, that's your enemy. Like you got to keep that suppressed, right? And
I
push
got you.
down.
Yeah.
So with that being like such a huge factor, like being able to control your stress, how does that translate into the deer woods? Do
Yeah,
you think
big
it's
time.
like, are you more relaxed there than in the tournaments?
No,
or-
worse.
Really?
I'm way worse in the deer woods. Yeah. Because it's such an uncontrolled environment, you know, and like you don't know how long that deer is going to stand there. And I've seen some of the best shooters in the world that couldn't hit a live deer to save their life.
Because of what?
They just freak out and rush.
Just freaking out.
They like I think it's most people's mistake deer hunting is that you feel like it's constantly about to run, you know, and so like when we started filming our hunts is when I learned the most about myself and hunting, is because I would feel so rushed and make mistakes rushing, and then go back and watch, and I'm like, deer was so calm.
Oh, there's nothing to rush for.
Yeah, it was. Why was I in such a hurry? So I really started to slow myself down. But competitions has made me do that as well. Just how I mentally approach those big moments, and when my body's telling me to like hurry, and how to turn that and just really slow down and hyper focus.
Do you think doing both helps?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm coming out of my highest stress tournament season in August and right into hunting season in September. And so I think most people bow hunting pick their bow up maybe a month before season, and they haven't felt any pressure, any stress. They shoot by themselves in the backyard. And then the first time they're under that is when that deer of a lifetime or big buck or elk is standing in front of them, and they just crumble.
That stuff about a month before in your yard by yourself really resonated with me.
I mean, it's just the way it is. It's just the way it is.
Or I have the high stress of my kids. The high stress of my kids kind of paying attention.
Yeah. So I've had my 11-year-old now. I'm trying to like prepare him for hunting season because this is kind of his first full season hunting tree stands with a bow. Yeah. And so I'm out there just putting the pressure on. Like he's walking, I'm going to stop him. I'm like, man, and like I'm like, make the shot, you know. And then he's failing, and we're learning through that, and because I'm trying to duplicate that feeling for him, so that when that happens, he can have success and not be bummed out because he's very hard on himself anyway. So
what are the gear differences? So shooting tournaments, are you using totally different arrow setup?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Arrows in tournaments are a lot bigger, so we can shoot up to like a 27 diameter shaft to cut lines. And that's kind of the purpose behind that.
Really?
Yeah, shoot
just because that little.
Yeah, because so many days shooting like even a smaller diameter. Because
that's an interesting point, man.
Miss rings by just, and you're like,
so like a thicker arrow just blows a better hole.
Yeah, just cuts lines better. And so,
but I mean, by 30 seconds of an inch.
Minute, but so many tournaments I've
lost. You
lost
get some of these arrows
seconds.
we got sitting right here, man.
Oh, that's what
those are some winners right there.
Well, one of my buddies actually, because there used to be no rule indoors for arrow size, and he took stabilizer bars and made arrows out of them.
You're kidding?
No, I swear. And because back then there was $1 million prize if you didn't miss between 3 tournaments, you won $1 million. And you didn't miss the first 2 tournaments, and then after that third one, I think he missed 1 or 2 for the $1 million, and they put an arrow rule like the next year you couldn't shoot over a certain size.
Wow, I didn't.
Oh man, that's a really interesting point. It's like that little bit of diameter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the bigger they are, the harder it is to get them to tune. Sometimes,
sure, yeah,
they get
payoff,
stiffer and stiffer. Yeah,
there's a point at which it doesn't help anymore
for sure.
So what do you like? What do you like to use to hunt?
I use a micro diameter, smallest, like a 1.66. We actually just finished building a whole platform out of that system because I love the system. I hated all the components that went with them in the past, but that's the arrow I like. It's really small for penetration, cutting the wind.
What do you like for broadheads?
So I've shot Swackers, a 2-inch expandable for 12 years.
Really?
Yeah.
You use them for everything?
Everything from moose to elk, grizzly bear. I've shot everything with them. So buffalo.
With mechanical.
Mm-hmm. But I got a 31-inch draw shooting 78 pounds, and so I'm pushing a lot of energy.
Oh, with 78 pounds hunting with your tournament bows, I'd imagine you're pulling less.
A little, 72 to 74 pounds tournaments. If you shoot FIDA, it's a max of 60, which is why I don't shoot that a lot. It's just I don't hold 60 pounds well because I never shoot 60 pounds.
Is it the same amount of let off as your hunting bow then, your tournament bow?
Yeah, 80. I've shot all the way down to 70% in tournaments, but depending on the way the cam's built, like there's 70Vs, there's, just regular 70s, the way it falls into that valley, everybody wants a different feel, and I've just got to where I like 80 for everything anymore. So,
why do you crank up from going from tournaments to hunting? Why are you cranking up 6 pounds?
Because I'm only shooting one arrow hunting. So tournaments, I'm shooting a lot of arrows a day.
Yeah, you got to play the long game a little bit.
Yeah.
So do you train higher?
Not really.
No.
I mean, for tournament season, I'll start, like indoor season, I'll be shooting 70, 72, and then just kind of, and that's a lot of arrows in the beginning of the year, January, February. So by 3D season or outdoor season, I'm in great shooting shape. And then going into hunting, going up to 78 pounds, it's not a huge deal, especially we don't shoot nearly as many arrows. But I like to have that little extra if I can. This year I actually had to back off because I couldn't get an arrow to tune for the first time at that high poundage. A 250 spine was too weak. So I had to back off my poundage to about 75 is what I'm hunting with, I think.
Got it. What's some of the biggest mistakes you think people make hunting whitetails? Hitting whitetails. Not hunting them, hitting them.
They aim where they want to hit.
And you're aiming low. How low?
Depends on the distance.
I've heard you talk about this in the past.
Yeah, I think 40 yards is the worst. 40 to 50 yards is probably the worst distance to shoot a whitetail, in my opinion, because they can hear everything. They can hear the bow, they hear the arrow, but they still have time to react.
Yeah.
Once you get further than that, they can't hear the bow go off as well. They don't react, that jumpy movement. And then 30 and under, if you're shooting a pretty fast bow, at 30 they can react a little, but at 20 you can pretty much aim where you want to hit for the most part, unless you're hunting like really keyed up South Texas or Texas stuff. You have to know where you're at. You have to know your deer herd. You have to read their language. But normally a good rule is to aim lower third of a whitetail, I think, because if they don't move, you still shoot them in the heart, and if they drop 10 inches, you're gonna hit them in the lungs.
What's a big drop for a deer loading up to jump? And talk about that too, is like the idea of he like jumped the string. Like talk about what he ducked the arrow. Like talk about what he's doing.
They're just crouching to run, but they have to flex their legs to run, and so it looks like they're ducking your arrow, but they're
not like, oh, here it comes.
No, they're just getting out of there.
Yeah, he's loading up to spring.
To run. Yeah, and so it's just. I take all that into consideration, but if they're 40 yards, it's dead quiet, and they're keyed up, I'm aiming like belly line.
Really?
Yeah, because they're gonna move.
So you're aiming that if he didn't do anything, you're in trouble.
Yeah, you're in trouble.
But he's gonna do something.
But I know he's gonna do something.
We filmed them on where they not only do they drop, but they also will load away from you. So it's like you're watching.
Because he's fixing to go the other direction.
Yeah. So the arrow, we have video of the arrow just climbing, literally just as he's falling, the arrow goes almost like a special effect. It's crazy.
Which kind of makes sense. If they're getting a predator's coming, they're going to want to.
Yeah, a whitetail especially doesn't need a reason. I mean, they would hunt other mule deer. I feel a little differently about. They always want to check and see what's going on. A whitetail doesn't need a reason, and it's just that immediate reaction. Boom.
Yeah,
it's insane.
Yeah, they'll wheel away and turn. There's so much to take in consideration, and I think people just shoot a deer target a ton and practicing, and they just the 10 ring and everything's where they want to hit. It's double lung, and so when that deer comes out, they just put their 30-yard pin right in the lungs and shoot and backstrap them or shoot over them I just think that's probably the biggest mistake I see people make as far as the shooting aspect of it.
I'm trying to think of how to ask this. I'm going to take a stab at it. At what distance, and I know there's all these variables like speed of arrow and all that, but let's say it's totally still, calm out. At what distance is a deer that is just like, because of the noise aspect, at what distance is it just too far to know where it's going to be when the arrow gets there?
Oof. I've seen deer completely move out of the way at 40, and then I've seen deer at 80 stand there and never move at all. So it's very hard to say.
So at 40, one can be out of the way.
For sure. I mean, depending on the speed of the bow, I mean, I'm talking about 3 feet from where you're aiming. You might hit them in the hip type stuff. Just a very, bow hunting and hunting in general, just very uncontrollable. And so you just have to take high percentage shots and then understand that bad things are going to happen every once in a while, and you have to deal with it and do your best. And so, I mean, for somebody to say, I've bow hunted my whole life, never made a bad shot, never.
Who told you that?
No, I'm saying like that doesn't happen. You know, I called every situation exactly as it was going to happen. It's just doesn't. It's not the way it is. So.
Yeah.
If somebody tells you that, they're probably full of it.
Yeah. But I feel really comfortable shooting a whitetail. Like, I love that 60 to 80 range because they don't move a lot.
Got it.
And I still feel very comfortable shooting, but I mean, I've dedicated my life to that. I think.
Yeah, that's your business, man.
Yeah. And so that 40 to 50 makes me most nervous. Shoot, because they're never where they were when the release fires.
Huh.
So it's like, where's he going to go?
Talk about your aiming process.
Mm-hmm.
You're not aiming at Brown.
No. My dad taught me, like, so I missed a lot of deer when I was hunting those game lands from that. When I said I started hunting at started shooting at them at like 8, and then I killed my first one at 12. Well, that 4-year span was not pretty. And so my dad really started, that's what I was doing. Like, just put pins on it and shoot. And so he really like drove it into my head that I got to pick a hair. He's like, you have to pick a hair on that deer that you want to hit. You know, it's the old saying, aim small, miss small. But that was his way of telling me, like, don't just aim at the deer. It's a good way to miss. And it's still true to this day in tournaments. I take that aiming at the 10 is a good way to shoot an 8. Yep. You know, aiming at the 12 is a good way to shoot a 10. You got to aim at something way smaller than that. So if you miss, you're still good. And so that's the way I still approach that, is like, I want to pick the ventricle of the heart I want to aim at, that type of thing.
So that's how you're thinking about it.
Yeah, that's how I think about it. And
that's an interesting deal. You can see people that don't shoot bows might get this from just sighting your rifle at a range. Like, if you're just trying to zero your gun at 100 yards, shoot a bullet hole, and then use that.
Yeah.
And you'll watch your group shrink down.
For sure.
Like, if you got a 1-inch circle on a target and you're trying to see what your group is like, just never mind that. Aim at a bullet hole.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, oh, because, I don't know what it is going on. It's just like that level of precision, or shoot an arrow and aim at the knock.
Yeah, it's your focus.
Yeah. And give it try to find something. But the hard part, I can do that all day long, or I'll go and take whatever, take a little bit of blue masking tape and kind of tuck it in something. But deer running around the woods,
they don't have that.
They don't have blue masking tape. So how are you what do you think? What do you actually? If you had to analyze what's probably occurring in your head in a very quick sense, like, what are you actually looking at? When you're looking at that deer's body, what are your eyes going to?
So I think this is where 3D tournaments has helped me so much, because we're aiming at a target and you can't see the rings. There's no dots. It's a blank deer target. You just have to know, like, you find the rings with binos, and then you get very good at aiming off of shadows and just little detail differences. And so for me on a deer, like, I think first and foremost, you have to know the anatomy of a deer and an animal really well.
Let's do it that it's a 40-yard shot.
Okay, 40-yard shot, perfectly broadside. I am going to give myself, and it's all just, for me, it's giving myself the most room for error. Human error, the deer moving, everything. So 40 yards, perfectly broadside. I'm going to pick that spot just behind the elbow, about 2 inches, 1.5 inches, 2 inches up in the deer maybe. And I'm going to burn my 40-yard pin about 1 inch or 2 behind that crease. And knowing that deer's going to move.
Yeah. See, that's the thing there, man. Is like, not that, like, I wonder if it will, but you're just like, it will.
I know it will.
It's going to move.
Yeah. Now, if the wind's blowing 40, it's raining, he's looking the other way, he's chasing a doe, everything changes that. I almost messed up last year in Mississippi. The buck was chasing a doe out of a cane thicket. It's quiet, so in my mind, I'm thinking he's gonna drop. But when they're that keyed up and rutted up on a doe, they don't hear anything. You could scream at them; they ain't paying attention. And I hit him in that inch above, right behind the crease, and hit the heart, bottom of the heart. But it's like
good, though,
he didn't move, and it scared me to death. And I shot, and he just stood there and took it. I was like, oh man. But in a normal scenario, they're gonna duck 5 to 10 inches at 40 yards.
Are there shots, and let's keep it let's keep it 40 or 40 or so. Let's say you got a buck and he comes in, he gets like semi downwind and he just knows something isn't right. Are you thinking like, no way, he's too keyed up? Or are you just playing?
No.
You just plan on that then?
Yeah,
you're
I'm
like,
just-
this dude is a flight risk when the string
For
goes.
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Then I think there is a time where you just have to say it's not going to work. You know, if he's that keyed up looking at you at 60, is probably not a good play.
You might make the call not to do it.
Yeah. But 40, I think you can still make the play. He can duck, but it's just such a situational thing.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm thinking of the average hunter here.
Yeah.
I mean, you're the best in the world. Okay, we've established.
Yeah. With much, yeah.
Yeah, but-
I pounded the table.
Yeah.
That's right. But you were able to take your mind through a thought process in
Right.
a very intense situation.
Yeah,
The
I think
average guy, realistically, like 25 yards, maybe 30, right?
I think, to high percentage stuff, yeah. I think the average guy can get efficient enough to shoot 50, 60 yards and be very good. The problem is, in the whitetail woods, you have to be able to process and take in so much information and then make a good decision with it like that. And that's the hard part, is making good decisions in those moments. And it's like, I think it's why so many people just make bad shots, or if they would have just been able to process that a little quicker, So I think most guys, bow hunting growing up was always a 40 and under game, and that's the way it just was. And it's just this unspoken rule. It's like, no, I don't have a pin over 50 yards. And I never did growing up because I was on the East Coast. We couldn't shoot further than that anyway.
Yeah.
But when I started hunting out west is when it opened my eyes up to this long range bow hunting stuff. I showed up in an antelope camp with Tim Gillingham, who's another one of the best in the world shooters. And I had a 50-yard pin, and that was it. And he laughed at me, like, out loud.
Like, kind of good luck?
Like, yeah, good luck. You're not going to kill an antelope. He told me that straight to my face. And so I proved him wrong and made it a point that I will get to within 50 yards of one of these things. But I realized really quickly, like, okay, if I'm going to be successful out west consistently, I've got to learn to shoot further. For the whitetail stuff, you do not have to shoot past 50 yards to be successful.
Maybe that's why I've had such a hard time out here.
It's hard, man. It is hard.
Chester shoots homemade bows.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I used to a lot more. I haven't had a lot of time, but I used to build bows. But
Yeah,
I
a
wanted.
little secret you might know about Chester. He has a bow company.
Not anymore.
Not
but
anymore. He did.
I wanted to tell you a story about Aim Small.
Look at that tattoo on
Miss
his arm.
Small.
You can't argue with that. He's got an arrow tattooed on his arm.
One day, just a real quick story. Out in the elk woods, I get out there and I always shoot a couple arrows I have a judo point. So I'm at about 15 yards and I pick out a little rock and I shoot. And I just miss it. I'm like, all right, that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. I walk down the trail a little bit. I see a grouse at about 15 yards. I aim at it, shoot at it, just miss it.
Yeah.
Then, a little while later that day, have a bull come in about 20 yards. Perfectly broadside shot. All nervous. Aim at it. Just miss it.
Yeah. Yep.
But it just goes to show you. It's like, come on, man. I can hit my target
Yeah.
at 20 yards.
Your focus gets bigger every time.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's just a weird thing, man.
It is hard.
There's so many, there's so many like failure stories. There's so many failure stories that when I'm trying to explain this to people, like the sort of, like the agony of trying to learn how to kill an elk with a bow. Like I started hunting deer with a bow when I was little, and it was just different because, during bow season, we'd just shoot any deer you could possibly get a chance at, but how hard it was to learn how to like kill elk with a bow. I remember when I finally killed a bull, I killed a couple cows, and I finally killed a bull with my bow and hit it through the heart, and it didn't even really move and died. I thought I was hallucinating.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, it's easier to imagine that I'm in a hallucinatory state than it is to imagine that just fell over. It was like, I'll buy that. Like that makes more sense that I've entered a hallucinatory state. But I think that's like, if you review all the bad, like when you review the bad shots, and I review the bad shots I made on my bow, and when I review the good ones and I review the bad ones you recognize that you don't know what, but there was a lack of certainty.
Mm-hmm.
There was a flash of like, let's see what happens, or a flash of I hope this works out.
Yeah.
Or you better do this. right?
Yep.
And when it's not, it's that you review in your head, you're like, no, it's right. Like I went like, no, calm down.
Yeah.
And I placed the arrow.
Yeah.
There was no, who knows?
Yeah. No, that's
Let her rip. You know?
100%. I mean, it's so funny because I try to tell people all the time, they're like, how do you, in those moments where, even tournaments where everything is on the line, like, how do you not let like all the negative, like what could go wrong stuff in? Because that's what happens. It's like the skier analogy. It's like, don't hit the tree, you hit the tree.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what you're focused on is very important, you know.
Do you have there's so many different things and ways and that people teach.
Mhm.
Do you have a process?
I won a lot of tournaments before I really realized what I had a process in those. And I've watched a lot of people, and I think I just got a little bit lucky too, as far as having that. My dad was a really good mental coach, tough love type mental coach, but he was very invested in me being able to perform in high pressure. And so it's like, I never really had a way to word it until recently. And I don't know if you guys have heard of Joel Turner, with
Like,
the shot IQ.
Yep.
Aim it to keep it.
Yeah.
And like,
But it was the way he explained it to me over the phone that really made it make sense what I did. And like what I was talking about, slowing down those big moments. Because when you get in that moment, even in tournaments, you just want the result now. Like or when that big bull elk steps up, like I want it now. I want to see my arrow hit it now, instead of just letting your process just organically happen. So I was always able to slow down in those moments, but I didn't know why. And I always saw people that performed better in high pressure, and I didn't know why. But when Joel explained it to me like this, he's like, Levi, how much determination would it take for you to walk through a house that was on fire? Like slowly walk through it. I said, it would a lot of determination for me to do that, you know? And he said, well, that's what your mind's going through in those moments. And he's right. And so once you start looking at it like that, because everything feels like it's on fire and you just want to run through that moment, you have to learn how to walk
like you said,
through it.
you want it so bad.
Yes. Like this is what you've worked for, this opportunity right now, this arrow, whether like this year shooting for Worlds, like my whole season came down to that arrow. And everything in me wanted to just get to the result now. But that was probably the slowest arrow I shot all year. Because I was like, double check everything.
This is the last arrow Worlds.
Yes.
Okay.
The final arrow. I put up on my Instagram a video of me shooting that. And I didn't, like in the moment, I looked so calm, but inside I was on fire, you know. Because everybody's always like, dude, you are just made of ice. You like ice water in your veins. I'm like, no. I am freaking out inside. I just look that way. And so it was really, really a slow, methodical process. And if you'd have looked at me at 19, 20, I was still winning a lot, but the more nervous I got, the faster I shot. And so the older I've gotten, I've realized how really important it is for me to slow down the more nervous I get. And
what does that look like? Like walk through what it looks like to slow yourself down. Not what it looks like, but I mean, are you literally talking to yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm
so
talking to
you're
myself.
like lecturing yourself.
Yes, on where I want to hit. I'm going to hit here. I'm going to aim here. This is what's going to happen. I'm going to shoot it for this. I'm double checking my sight tape. I'm going to execute slowly and steady and just really affirming every positive thing that I'm going to do.
Okay.
Not like what could happen if I don't do this. Because I've had tournaments where I let those thoughts in and you just collapse and it's over.
What thoughts?
So like everybody's looking. Like this is your whole season comes down to this. You know, there's $100,000 on the line. You know, you haven't won in 3 tournaments. Those thoughts.
I understand.
You know, after the phone call from some of your biggest endorsements of like, hey, what's your practice routine looking like lately?
Oh,
you know,
God,
it's like everybody's doubting you and thinking you're washed up.
Really?
Oh, I've heard it all. It's like,
man,
you know,
I'll be like, yeah, I gotta run.
yeah. It's like, I've been like those stretches in your career where it's like, you just can't get it. You just right there and just like 5 in a row where you don't win. And it's just like, everybody's like, oh, he's lost it. You hear the buzz and it's like, okay, I got to shut all that up and figure it out. And I think I think that's why you see in a lot of sports, the guys that dominate and then they just go away because it's that expectation of other people. And then you put on yourself, that cloud just follows you everywhere.
Yep.
And it's a very uncomfortable feeling.
What's old for a tournament shooter?
Some of the guys are in their 50s still shooting incredibly
so you
well.
Can, you can play a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I could. I don't know that I will.
Yeah. How old are you?
I'm 36.
Okay. But you could do another decade if you felt like it, right?
Yeah. I mean, if my eyes, the main thing is your eyes.
Is that what the limiting factor is?
Yeah. So a lot of the guys have had, different surgeries and kept their eyes really good. My eyes are still great. They change every year, but I can still see very well.
What's your deal with stuff like coffee,
Yeah, I drink coffee every morning. So I
even
don't
on a tournament shoot?
I just could try to limit it until after, but I'm like addicted to caffeine badly. So
that's just factored in.
Oh yeah,
there's gonna be coffee.
Well, the first thing I think of whenever I shoot that final arrow that day is like I'm getting an energy drink from the closest gas station I come to after this. So yeah, but I keep it to a minimum and try to eat easy, digestible foods.
Yeah, give me an example.
Like
something that works for you.
oatmeal, fruit, something like that for breakfast. I don't want like steak and eggs, because literally you can see when your body's working that hard to digest food, you can see your pin move and your heartbeat. Just like,
man, it wasn't till I never got it from archery. It wasn't till I got into free diving, spear fishing and free diving. My friend Greg Fonts, he's like, if something's wrong with you, this is where you find out. Right. And noticing the effects of, because you're just trying to do breath holds and you become conscious of your heart, noticing the effects of what you've eaten, what you drank, dehydration, stress. I never applied, and I never applied that type of thinking to marksmanship.
Right. Yeah.
Like shooting my rifle, shooting my bow.
That's why the first time
I'll be like laying on the surface ready for a dive, and once I close my eyes, I'm like, "You're not ready to go. You're not ready." Like I could, I can like hear my heart beating in my ear, which you shouldn't,
right?
And I'll be like, "Okay, chill." But I never, I would never think to be sitting in a tree stand and be like, "All right, you better tone it down."
Right? Yeah. Suppress that.
Like you better like just take a second, tone it down. Let's check in a little bit on what we're doing.
Definitely. And there's a lot of things you can do to slow your heart rate. I've learned all that shooting in the World Cup because I've never been under that much pressure, like shooting for the U.S. and England and against other countries and stuff like that. It was like this immense pressure. And I was like just total redneck that went over there because everybody's like, you should go shoot in the World Cup. And then I was like, I guess, so I flew to England and pretty soon I was the last standing American, and I was like, oh my God, my whole country's counting on me.
Lee Greenwood yelling in your ear. I'm proud.
Just rolled through all my buddies, and now it's me and some guy from the Netherlands, and they're like blowing air horns in my ear, and I'm like, geez, this is wild over here. So
when you see a buck coming, okay, let's say like a buck you really been after.
Yeah.
And he's coming, and he's still way out, but he's coming. He's lined out. Do you, are you conscious about what, like, are you practicing the same mental discipline? Like, this is going to happen. Right. So are you going like, okay, I'm going to get in my headspace, or you just in the hunting game and you're not playing like a tournament
I'm not
shot?
nearly as good in that moment as I am at a tournament.
Okay.
Just because in a tournament, I know exactly what's going to take place for the most part. Like, I got 20 targets to shoot. And then once I'm in the finals, I can make a plan. Like, this is my strategy.
The target's not going to whiff you.
No, I mean, hunting, you might hunt for 2 weeks and you get lulled to sleep and all of a sudden, boom, there he is. He's coming. And so you don't have that. I mean, ideally, you stay sharp. And if he comes down this trail, like that's what I try to do. If he comes from here, this will be my plan. If he comes from here, this is what I'm going to do. But I mean, you get caught off guard all the time. And so for me, it's just focusing again on what I want to happen, how I want to execute, and not focusing on all the negative that could go wrong. But hunting, my heart rate, everything is so elevated from tournaments. It's just, I love it. And you work so hard for that opportunity and you don't know it's coming.
When, cause you're a walking rangefinder, do you, what are you doing with deer?
Oh, I range everything. Yeah. That thing's in my hand constantly.
Got it. So when you get up in the tree, you start ranging trees and range.
And even when he's coming.
Do you visualize all your shot? Like, Are you like, okay, I could picture shooting through that gap?
Mhm.
Are you doing all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff?
if he comes on that trail, I hit that limb, and like everything. I'm trying to pick it apart when I get in a tree.
Yeah.
But even then,
like it could be this way, it could be
Yeah.
that way. Yeah.
But like used to, I'd range a tree, like that one's 40, that one's 51. So if he's between it, I'll kind of try to gauge it. But I learned myself, and like you black out a lot in
Okay.
those moments, right?
Yep.
And it's right there, and then you're like, wait, what was that tree?
Yeah,
You know. So now I'm constantly got my rangefinder, and so like I want to click it until he breaks under 30, then I'll put it up. You know.
How do you hang your rangefinder?
I've got the chest binos and then the rangefinder holder.
So you
right
pouch
here.
it.
Yeah,
I
pouch.
got you.
And so like if he's walking broadside, I'm gonna click him because I need that exact for me to aim that small and focus that small in my head. I need to know exactly how far he is, right?
Yeah.
If you're like he's between 40 and 46, it's very hard to aim an inch up in him.
Yeah,
You're like-
kind of pretending, right?
You're
You're
just
aiming, but it
area
doesn't.
aiming, you know.
Exactly,
So for
yeah,
me,
exactly.
I need to know like he's 42.3. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna.
But are you shooting set pins then when you're hunting?
You know, I got 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and then it's on a mover, and I use my bottom pin as the mover.
Gotcha.
So,
So a lot of your shots, you're just shooting off pins.
yeah,
And are you splitting gaps? Or
gapping, yeah,
you do?
yeah, and it's just a practice thing, and
Explain gapping real quick for people that are listening.
so like if he's 54 yards and you got a 50 and a 60, you're splitting that where an imaginary 54-yard pin would be. So you put your 50 high, your 60 low, and try to gap that exactly where it needs to be. And that's an art, and that takes a lot of practice.
it's another thing to think about, man.
It is. So that's like one thing. Like you got to be really in tune with your stuff.
I was trying to get my kid a shot at a deer this year at his bow. This is his first year, and I was just like, I got him where we're not gonna shoot more than 20, and if you get a shot, like just that's the thing,
Yeah.
And I feel like I was limiting him. I was just trying to simplify it.
Yeah.
Right. I was trying to simplify it. I'm like, it doesn't matter if I say go, that's
Yeah.
the green thing.
Put it there.
That's
Yeah.
the one. Don't worry about all this other, because he likes to shoot the league, and I'm like, I just want you to put a lot of that out of your head. Let's
Yeah.
just try to practice on close shot, good shot.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. That's the same way I'm doing with mine. We practice out the 30, and I've got him like putting him in situations, but I already told him, I said, if it's over 20, it's a no-go.
Yeah, we sat down and I showed him, I was showing him like that tree, if it's coming down that trail, that tree, not before that tree, but that tree is time. And it's the green bin or whatever the hell color pin, just keep it simple.
I grew up with a compound.
Yeah.
A real cheap one. Started hunting with traditional bows. It's like so difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, I was given a compound. I got it all set up. Holy cow!
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
holy cow!
yeah, you
The
mean did they work real good?
Especially having like definitely little different mechanics, but having like good mechanics and understanding back tension and things like that. Grabbing a compound and then being able to relax a little bit at full draw was a big thing for me because I was wanting to like
rip it apart.
Mm-hmm. But like after that, like I was just like, you've got to be kidding
No,
me.
they work
Oh,
amazing
it's
well.
unreal.
I have a longbow, dude, and I haven't ruled out that someday I'm gonna I put in a PVC tube with a cap on it and put it deliberately like in like mental storage. And I've so many times almost taken some of that stuff and put it on the free table here at work. I'm like, no, because someday you might return to it. But right now, I just don't have the time, discipline, or dedication to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But someday I'm like, I could picture someday in my old man era picking that out and being like, all right, man, now we're going to do it.
I've been asked that a lot. Like, when are you going to, isn't it too easy? I'm like, nope. Nope. Like, I respect people that do that because I'm like, I would be scared to death to take a longbow out.
Do you shoot one for fun?
I have. I'm not very good.
To be
You're not good.
No.
To be honest with you, I've done it a long time, and the more I do it, the more scared I get
Yeah.
with it,
Mm.
which sucks. But I've just seen a lot happen.
Oh, yeah.
Did I tell you that I won a tournament with my longbow?
No,
But in my age class, it was only me and one other kid.
Gotcha. Well,
Win's a win.
yeah, it was just like my brother. He was the best in his 6th grade class.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
I beat this one boy
He was
one
the
time
only
with
one,
my longbow.
only one in his class.
They're fun to shoot.
Yes.
I just, man.
And there's a time and place.
Yeah.
Like,
So what would happen to you if you went and what would have happened to you if you known what you knew, went and shot like Olympic style?
Gosh, I don't
Did you
know.
ever mess with it?
No, never. Some of my good friends, Brady Ellison, probably the best American Olympic shooter there ever was.
Uh-huh.
I've hunted with him. He's a great guy, but I'd have no idea where to start.
Is that right? Did you
So
shoot a
different.
recurve?
Yeah, just a recurve with pins and fingers and clickers, and I got nothing.
So you
for
don't
it.
mess with it?
No, but he's unbelievable. Like he shoots as good as a lot of the compound professionals with his recurve.
Yeah. Is he a hunter?
Yeah.
What's he hunt with?
He hunts with a compound.
Does he?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And he can shoot with a compound like very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he has to shoot like 40% let off because he's so used to that.
Oh, the wall on
The
it, dude?
tension just building. As
Is
he
that
shoots.
right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
whenever it like breaks over, it freaks him out.
He can't
So,
jump from the one to the other, huh?
Yeah.
It-
I mean, maybe now, the last time I shot with him is,
when I shot that bow, that compound, I couldn't let it down.
yeah. You had that much tension built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, he's like, let it down. I'm like, like,
Oh,
Till
yeah,
it
no, I
breaks
can picture
over.
it. It's like suspenseful.
yeah.
Have you ever had do you ever get jumpy from like gear malfunctions?
No.
Like you have like the string junk the cam or like a problem with the release or whatever, then all of a sudden it's like some kind of like demon enters your head.
I have mostly with release malfunction
Yeah.
stuff. That's really big because it just takes you so much out of your shot process, and then every time you're drawing the bow back for like the next 100 draws, you're thinking about it.
Yeah, I've had that where I've been rattled by, and a lot of it's self-inflicted. Like I had a bow one time, I flew with it.
Mm-hmm.
In a hard case, but I didn't even think to check it out.
Yeah.
And I had no idea, but I don't know someone jumped up and down on it,
Mhm.
drove a plane over it. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Just bent the hell out of the upper cam,
Yeah.
pulled it back. Flop,
Oh yeah.
and then, dude, it's just, then you're like, well, I'll be living with that for a long time. Cause I'm like, it's just so hard to like,
It is
something
hard.
in the back of your head doesn't trust the bow.
Yeah.
And then you got to shoot through that, you
Yeah.
know? And that stuff that derails you, man.
Yeah. I've been very lucky in tournaments or hunting, to not have too much of that stuff going. I did at a major event one time have a release malfunction and sent one down through the woods on the second target of the final day, and that was tough to recover from.
Was it?
Yeah. Almost won the tournament, but it was just a tough mental obstacle.
Like, did that arrow cost you?
Oh yeah, it cost me everything.
You don't get a mulligan?
No. No, you move on. And the funny thing was I was shooting with so at the time I was in a peer group, the top peer group with the pro staff coordinator for that release company.
Uh-huh.
And when it shot, I couldn't even yell at the release or do anything. I just had to shove it down in my pouch and get a new one and go to the next one. So
Yeah, that's good.
it's really the only time that's happened to me. Cost me big time anyway.
You got any tournament shooters coming up next generation?
Oh yeah,
Do you?
ton of them. Keeping those young guys beat down is the hardest part. It's putting doubts in their mind and messing with them.
No, what I was referring to, and it might be the same answer. I was referring to your kids.
Oh no, I don't think so.
No.
My kid, he literally looked me right in the eye and said, "I'm never going to shoot tournaments." So
Oh, really?
I'm like, okay, that's as clear as I need it, you know.
But he likes to be outdoors. Just
Oh,
isn't
yeah.
drawn to the competitive.
Fishing, he's the most competitive. My oldest is the most competitive human being. It's like I'm trying to work with him because it's like I beat him. There's some videos that I should post of him at like 5 where I was like beat him at air hockey and he would lose his mind and I'd make him shake my hand and tell me good job. And he did not want to do it. Like,
Oh, really?
yeah, he was like, I was like, you're going to shake my hand. Look me in the eyes, that kind of stuff. But he's a baseball kid right now.
Got it.
Loves it. And he loves to bass fish. So,
Bass fishing.
yeah,
Yeah.
loves it. So he'll get up at 4 a.m. every day to go bass fish. So,
Well, that's cool.
yeah.
Yeah. What age are your kids?
I got 11. One's about to turn 6. Then I've got 18-month-old little girl and then a 4-month-old little boy.
Oh, so
Wow.
time
Yeah,
will tell.
I don't know with my
Yeah,
young.
it's hard
And
to say where
my
they're gonna go.
6-year-old is just wild. He says he wants to hunt, but he won't practice. He's just that kid.
Yeah,
Playing on his second
that's
kid.
6, man.
Yeah,
it's
like-
hard. It's hard to picture what
Yeah.
you're practicing for. A little
It's so
bit,
funny
you know?
how different they are, but he's my comedian for sure.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, tell people how to find you, how to check out your stuff, how to find you on social media, whatever.
Yeah, I am on Instagram, mostly bowlife_Levi. We have a show on the Outdoor Channel, Bowlife. And then we're doing a lot of stuff on YouTube now, on Levi Morgan YouTube and thelevimorgan.com. And that's pretty much all the places I will be.
And you're going to shoot tournaments next year?
That's the plan.
Haven't quit yet?
No, not yet. Not yet. I still don't feel finished quite yet.
How many, like, at what point, at what year mark are you undecided? You know what I'm saying? 5?
40 years, I wanted to be done by 40.
Okay.
Just because the age of my kids will be, and I've just been gone a lot, and I just want to be there with my kids.
Yeah.
During that span, because I shoot like 17 major events a year, so it's a lot. And this last trip that I left just gets harder every time. You know, my 11-year-old bawling his eyes out, and it was just tough.
Yeah,
So,
I've been through that stuff, man.
yeah,
It's hard. It takes a
it's
toll
tough.
on you, man.
Yeah. And I sat in the driveway crying myself for like an hour, like, what am I doing? So I don't know how much longer.
Really?
You know, I love the competitiveness of it, but at some point it's like, how many do you need to win? And before, I don't want to be that dad that's gone.
Being gone's tough, man. Even if you have, like, we run a tight program at my house. And so when I'm gone, I'm not worried.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not worried about what's going on.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
Like I said, it's a tight show.
Yeah.
Like, very controlled program.
Mhm.
But it's just nice to be home.
It is nice.
You
Yeah.
know?
It's nice.
Yeah.
I'm just starting to get a taste of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
the
not like
little
you're
guy.
worried. I'm not like worried. It's just like I just want to be
Yeah, exactly. FaceTime's
part of the
not
mix.
the same.
You want to be part of the mix, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have, how old is your
Jeff's
kid?
got a brand new one.
He's gonna be a year, October 19th. He's tiny little bugger.
Yeah.
He's actually here in the office right now.
Oh, really?
We gotta make things work. You know? He's just-
That's
Internship.
awesome.
I just left him in my office. No.
Lock the door,
Yeah,
put a
AC
dog
on.
in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember like when Landon was a baby, I was like, this isn't too bad. It hurt, but when they start crying when you leave, that's the hardest. 'cause
Where
it's
he
like-
doesn't quite. he
Yeah,
doesn't
you're
get it
almost
yet.
there.
No, it's
Yeah.
sad. Let's not end on a sad note.
Yeah, no, for sure. I do get to go home today, so that's a good note.
Well, Nick, thanks for coming on, man.
My pleasure. Thank
Yeah, I
you.
appreciate you coming on and talking about the movie Whitetail. And Levi, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. I'm going to hit you up about that live show.
I'll be there.
All right.
All right.
Shooting. We'll have to check on the shooting part.
I'll take a ticket. It's been a while.
It's Pittsburgh. Anything goes. We're good.
Yeah, we got a guy. We got a tour manager. I'm going to ask him, like,
There
what
we
would
go.
happen if someone shot a bow? We'll figure it out. If not, you'll just have to talk. Or your poetry will all be written in arrows. We'll find out.
That's fine.
All right. Thanks, man. Thanks, everybody.